long weekend. We had Easter. Hope everyone had a great Easter. But we want to just open up the floor here to you guys. You guys post thoughts, comments, things you saw. While I try and wrap up, I got about a million messages over my end over the weekend, so I'm trying to catch up on everything at the same time. But go ahead and start posting in the chat, guys, what you're looking at, what you're noticing. We got Nvidia down 5% today. Again, it's funny. It's like if someone's going to go back in a couple years. If I can, let me just do this. Pull this up here. Somebody's going to go back in a couple years and be like, look at this beautiful downwards trend on Nvidia. It worked perfectly, technically speaking. But we all know that what happened here was the ban to selling to China, and it's been dropping ever since. Now, this is painful for me because I have a long-term position in Nvidia. I'm in at like 94, so I'm still slightly up, but not by much anymore. But we do have in Nvidia elites. We've been trading the puts over and over again, just following the Newton momentum. And so that should be another 100 plus gain this week if things hold up as they are so far. So that's one bright spot on a down trending market. Mike says this all feels like it's going to be very unsettled until July when the 90-day tariff extension concludes. Definitely could be. There was a rumor yesterday that there was going to be a deal with Japan today, but a lot of rumors, a lot of noise, not a
Yeah.
ton of action so far, just a lot of waffling back and forth on all different parties.
Yeah, and I think honestly, even on that 90-day period, it's going to be just more deal making and hey, maybe we extend it for another 30 days. Maybe we extend it to the people who, are willing to compromise at a certain level and double down on the people who aren't. Like I don't think we're probably going to get out of the woods there. I don't think this administration or the policy structures are going to enable us just to kind of get to a calm period where things get priced in and then we move back. But like Graham said, I think one of the things that you can do here is have certain things that you feel good about, that you feel like are, undervalued right now. Like for me, I said, I'm going to start grabbing the MAGS, the mags, down 4% today. So, not a not a great time to have just started grabbing some, but they're beaten down enough for me to go ahead and start grabbing some, knowing, hey, they could go down 20% more. And I'll still have them at a much better value than I was pretty comfortable owning them like back in November. So you have some of those, positions where you just feel like they're undervalued. You're comfortable owning it. It's a long term. For me, SLV silver is actually falling in that category now. Just underperformed gold so much that I'm happy to start grabbing some of that. But then on top of that, you layer on some of the other actual trading strategies that are sometimes like in direct opposition. They're hedging whatever, or you add some income to those. Could be boring stuff, just like throwing covered calls on what you're owning, but it could be puts on the more aggressive downside momentums, the Nvidias and the AVGOs of the world, while still holding mags and other semiconductor stocks, and that can kind of help you just weather the storm. Because I think what we all know is that we would love to be in a position where we successfully weather the storm and we're really aggressive when things do pick back up. Like everyone looks back on the COVID flush and says, "Oh, I wish I was all stayed aggressive was all back in after that." And I think that's for me very top of mind right now is that I'm trading in multiple directions. I'm doing some premium related things, but I also want to be ready to be aggressive when things kind of start to stabilize and pick back up. It's just a matter of when that's going to be. Is it going to be a 90-day window here, or is it going to be a year-long battle of trying to kind of wait for money to recycle through all the different policies, actually successfully land more manufacturing back in the US and, kind of get some bright spots there. And I think that's hard to tell, but ultimately, as long as you kind of have a mix of the things that you're willing to hold, understand what that long-term playbook looks like, and then actively trading in between, you're going to be in a lot better position than picking your spot. Hey, here's the bottom. I'm all in now. And then crossing your fingers and, hoping for what comes next.
Yep. Dora Lee's asking, how is it different to position in gold or buying, holding physical gold? Uh, I'll give you my experience, Dora Lee. Basically, it's the same concept with the Bitcoin and Bitcoin ETFs. You can either hold physical and it's yours, and if the stock market shut down one day, you still have it there in your hands. Or if the government closes your account one day, you still have it there in your hands. versus trading GLD like the ETF or other forms of stock. You don't actually own any physical gold, obviously. Again, if someone closed your accounts, you can't go access it. But it is much easier to buy and sell this way than it is to do physical. I do physical. I love it. I think it's awesome. But for example, I pay about 5% per ounce when I buy, and then I have to lose about 5% when I sell, just because of the commission fees that are associated with doing bullion versus here with the actual GLD. There's not much fees. I mean, there are fees, but they're tiny baked into the ETF. So it's just this is much more liquid. It's much easier to move in and out of. But again, the crazy scenario that technically could happen, but probably will never happen. The plus side to holding physical gold is if the government shuts down your accounts one day, you still have it. In my opinion, that's my experience. All right, let me go ahead and flip over here. See what we got popping up here today on Newton. Fidelity, Domino's Pizza. Wow, this one's been in a sideways trend. This is one of those stocks that we always. Is Domino's Pizza one of the stocks that are up just massive over time?
Yeah, it's
Or
pretty good.
yeah,
It had some beat downs in between. It wasn't as consistent as Wing or CMG, but lately it's been picking back up.
this one's Cardinal Health. It looks like a pretty stock here. Let me put the Newton. I've got so many. I was messing around with Kane's indicator over the weekend. I don't know. Did everyone get a chance to see Kane's new Maverick? Like you guys know, I always get access to everything here. So I was messing around with that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Lauren says physical gold is great as long as you can store it safely away from government prying hands. Yeah, there you go. CAH Cardinal Health looks like a good one. Let's see. What was healthcare was pretty low in our sector ratings, right? I haven't done the update yet. Yeah, healthcare is not pretty. It's Cardinal Health. I have to imagine it's a healthcare stock. Healthcare. Outside of that, it looks pretty good right here. It's a Newton. Just flip positive on it. As you can see, that's been a prime source for many runs before. For Cardinal Health, I'm just looking at this lower study. I didn't put it on the charts I can here. So you can see here, Cardinal Health, CAH looks pretty good right now. They do have earnings coming up May 1st, but it did just flip green on Newton, which has been really a great opportunity on the stock the last, what is that, 5 times in a row? Here's probably a break even. So about 5 in a row. CAH looks like a good bullish run right now. I am going to pull up the short scanner here in a second because as you guys know, oh, Lily, that was a big news move. Markets are moving south. Let's see what the S&P. Look at this. This is cool, Nate.
Yes.
Newton flipped red here, February 24th. Still red. I like to also confirm it with the weekly. See where we're at. Still red. March 3rd, red. What red just means, guys, it just means below average momentum, or stocks are lagging or falling, weakening, if you will. So S&P has been in a weak state since February. You guys know what's happened since then. So obviously a lot of stocks are falling. I'll do the full look at this. Look at all these stocks that just flipped red on Newton compared to the bullish ones we saw. AJG, this is a really good stock. I personally wouldn't trade it short. Aflac, same. But this one, like Motorola. Is that the Motorola? Hmm. Flipped red. So there are some good downside opportunities right now, but again, it's just such a tough market to trade short term, just because so much is it's all news based. I'll keep posting that in Telegram. That will get a position that looks really good, and then some crazy tariff news will come out and it ruins everything. Autodesk looks like a nice short here. And I think this would just be under the tech. Oops. Information technology. Yeah. Tech, which has been very weak with the tariffs. ADSK. Let me just add these in here. What was my CH long looks good. ADSK short looks good. Fortinet. Oh, I love
Oh, not
Fortinet.
your go-to.
I know. I love Fortinet. I'll never short Fortinet. Actually, I would. I did one time. It was awesome.
Oh, that looks nice too.
Yep. What is this? Hubble? Telescopes?
Hmm?
What are we doing here? What is this? Electrical solutions and utility, industrial stock. HUBB looks good. Isn't Hubble the telescope?
I mean,
Uh,
there is the Hubble telescope, but I don't know if it's the same company.
no, I don't think it is. That was the first thing I thought of. All right, those are the ones I like here, long and short. Let me go ahead and take a look at earnings here. 5-1, that's not this week. Let's go ahead and do a trade on Hubble. Let me see. Nope, we're not going to do one. Same problem we had last week with the options not lining up. What was my other short there?
Autodesk.
There it is. This one will definitely have weeklies. Let's just make sure earnings far out. So I'm going to trade Autodesk short this week. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give you guys a call. Yeah, Berkshire is on there. I'm not going to trade Berkshire short. It's a great company. But it is technically on there if you want to do trade Berkshire. I do have some rules that I give you guys when I trade with Newton. Different things I want to see lining up. In Berkshire, I actually have a long position on right now. It's going against me, but it's part of it. So if I was to do Autodesk, I would be looking at the 25th of April expiration. That's a weekly expiration. Let me just tighten this up real quick. Now the stock is currently at 254.76. So I would be looking to wrap it. And it's a great price right now. If the stock falls about $2 from here, about less than 1%, we can get a little over double our money. So let me type this up for you guys. So I'm going to buy the 255 put. Make sure you're selecting puts here because we're trading to the downside. And I'm going to sell the 252.5 put. This is currently trading at 105, and I'll walk you through what this means right here. So here's a trade I'm going to take right now, guys. Bam. Autodesk to the downside. So here I've selected, I'm buying the 255 put, 25th expiration, selling the 252.5 put. It's right now at 95 cents. Let me go ahead and get a few of those. And then I'll show you what's going on here. So if Autodesk, it's in this beautiful downtrend, right? It's just flipped negative again. We have until the 25th for Autodesk to close right here below my crosshairs. I'm not going to move it. So if Autodesk finishes below here, where my crosshairs are, where you see them, and I get filled at $1 or whatever we're at right now, we will be at a, let me see, 250. Oops, our max profit's 250. Say we enter for $1. What happened? It's going to be 150% return. I was just trying to show you how we calculate it, but I'll pull up the actual calculator itself here, actually. It'll make it easier. Again, these are in all your members' portals, the calculators. Nate, do you have calculators in yours?
Yeah, I have that two-way one, which I really like because it actually gives you all the numbers, including the expiration date and stuff. But I need to create some of the free ones because I was doing a couple classes and people were having trouble following the math, when you're zipping through it really quick. So
True.
I got to create a couple freebies for the
So
peoples.
here, this is a calculator. Every members portal has it. Just use this wrap order and elite one. We're not doing a credit spread. See if it loads. So remember, we're buying the 255. Oops, I gotta go to the bearish one. See my mistake here? Bullish. We're not trading bullish. We're trading bearish. So let's go down here to the bearish one. We're gonna buy the 255 call. We're gonna sell the 252.5. I did 3. Let's say I get filled at $1. Here it runs the math for you. So again, I just typed in exactly what I told you. Total risk $300, max profit $450. So my $300 stake will turn to $750. And that's 150% gain. It's at $1.40 now, says RV Hannings. So the options are moving. I will adjust it. The most I would want to pay, guys, just to be clear here, is about 125. I wouldn't look to pay more than 125 right now because that's going to put me right at that 1-to-1 risk to reward. Or if it does make that 1% drop from here, a little less than 1% now. It only needs to drop $1.50 from here for me to double my money. I don't really want to get into the 140s like RV says it is right now. That's under 80%. That's still a good, fine opportunity, but I would like to get in for about 125 here on Autodesk at a max. I have not gotten filled yet, as you guys can see. I'll go adjust it here in a second. Wow, look at Bitcoin still going.
Well, I was just gonna say with Bitcoin, so Bitcoin's rallying right now as the SPY drops 2.5% or over 2%, and the Q's 2.5%. Do you think so? I think the thing I have to ask myself now, I have a pretty decent, Bitcoin position, is when things kind of settle down and hit a base and we start getting more optimistic on stocks, are, are we going to start becoming pessimistic on Bitcoin at that point? Are we actually going to start wanting to take profit at the bottoms instead of what we always would have thought before is that Bitcoin will hit highs on a more bullish, risk on aggressive cycle?
Are you saying, sorry, say that one more time. I was answering questions in the chat.
No, I'm saying for me, the reason I'm holding Bitcoin and optimistic on Bitcoin was not because I thought it was going to be anti-risk. I thought on our next super bullish cycle, we have one more pop in us. We'll hit 150K. I'll take profits then.
Uh-huh.
Now you kind of almost have to ask, well, actually, is it going to bleed value on a bullish cycle now that it's kind of making what seems to be a store of value transition?
I actually, and this is a hot take, I was thinking about it this morning, looking at it. I actually think that Bitcoin's in like a win-win situation right now, where it
That's
is
kind of where my
getting,
question was leading. Is it one of those rare win-wins, like a
I think
progressive,
it
where
is.
it could be risk off, but also trend with the broad market when it's bullish?
I think risk on it's going to do the same thing it's always done, at least just one more time. Maybe the next couple times. But you got to think like risk on, even gold does well in risk on environments when interest rates are getting cut. That's typically one of the best times for gold. So the fact that gold's going up right now, uh, I shouldn't say it's shocking, but it is like counterintuitive. But it's obviously not counterintuitive because it's inflation and all the tensions with China, dumping bonds, everyone's buying gold. So I think it's just in the same sort of boat where we might get a double whammy here where we get. It is not what I expected. I expected Bitcoin to be at 60s right about now,
Yeah,
given where
same.
everything is. But I do
Yeah.
think, like what we're saying, look at this. Look how bullish this is. Bitcoin actually did just flip positive on the daily for Newton. So that's above average momentum. Meanwhile, the S&P is getting drilled right now.
Well, and like I said, it's not just like kind of circumstantial. Hey, there happens to be some gyrations. It's like literally right now, as we're getting this drop in the S&P, Bitcoin is getting volume and moving up. Like quite literally in real time, blow for blow. So it feels like that transition is really legitimate right now, and that's kind of what I was leading. I'm curious if it's one of those rare win-wins where you could start to see Bitcoin stabilize. I'm not. I'm not going to go as far as say it's going to be consistently green every time the market's red, but to be more stable and actually have a better floor than a lot of the risk on assets, but still have all the firepower on a really aggressive bullish cycle to, you know, outperform and make a big rally. Because if
Hmm.
that's the case, then I think like some of my thoughts on starting to accumulate mags and some of those other things, it's like, man, maybe Bitcoin is falls in that same category.
Yeah, definitely. I am going to take a Bitcoin trade here for fun. Does anyone want to do that one? A bullish trade on Bitcoin? Or Nate, we could do one of your two-way trades if that would be more enjoyable for the crowd here. What does everyone want to do? Bitcoin did just flip positive on Newton momentum. Um, cool sign for me. Zachary says he wants a two-way trade. Or Zachariah, sorry. My apologies. Sylvia says both. Two-way, two-way. Dang, Nate, you're stealing the show yet again. Everybody wants the two ways.
All right, well, let's see what we can get in because we'll see how high the
Oh, good idea.
volatility
We
is
could
here.
play MicroStrategy on the move.
Well, my MSTR might be better for the two way because
Yep,
you can get some more
agreed.
spread action there. Let's take
Good
a quick
call.
look.
Good question. On Autodesk, do I put a target? I typically don't, but if you want to, you would put it. I do whatever you desire, whatever your heart tells you to do. No, just kidding. Um,
Whatever your heart tells you.
you can, but here, depending what you got filled out, I saw we got a lot of people get filled at 105. So you can just keep an eyeball here, depending on what you want. Let's say you want a 50% target. I should inverse this calculator so you can set it at whatever percentage you want, but you could set a target about 160, which that's not even that big of a move, and you get about 50%. So you can that's what this dark blue box is here in the members portal. So you can play with the different targets. If I want a $2 target, I'll get 90%. Now keep in mind the max you can do for a target is the difference of these two strikes. So I wonder, I've never actually tried this. Oh, so I need to fix my target box here because it says if you do a $10 target, you'll get that. Problem is you'll never get filled for $10.
Yeah, so with the two-way, we can get a pretty decent trade in here, but the ROI is going to be a little bit limited because of the expected move right now across the entire market is so huge. So let me, I'll type you in what I'm looking at here. And Greg, maybe you could just kind of throw MSTR on and kind of draw some lines so they
Yeah.
can see what we're doing. We're looking at a $15 move on either side, which for MSTR, it's not, $15 not a really huge move, but what you'd be looking at here, if we go out 11 days, so that's May 2nd. Basically, the reason I like to go 11 days, by the way, I like to work at least one weekend into the trade because sometimes you get those big weekend moves. So even if a trade hasn't moved enough, you get that big weekend spike and you can end up on one side or the other. So I like definitely working in at least one weekend. We can do that with with that May 2 expiration. So what you would be doing is you would be buying the 337.50 call, okay, and then you'd be selling the 340. So about a $15 move there. Sorry, I'm trying to type and look at the chart at the same time. You'd be selling the 340 call. Then you go down and create the box on the bottom. Same kind of thing. You'd buy the 310 put. Sorry, yes, buy the 310 put. There we go.
337.50 call.
And then you would sell the 307.50. Okay, so a little more downside, but not a lot. Um, and that's your box. Your box is fairly big here, and you're gonna have to go, with a ticker like MSTR, you're gonna have to create a decent size box, in order to set yourself up because it does have a big expected move. But what you really want is one big move, one over outsized move that you can kind of get out with the target. And right now, we can get into this. I mean, the spread's going to be wide, probably around $1.75. So, you have another 75 cents there of potential profit because your max value here is going to be the width of your spread on either side.
So
So,
you sold the 340. Sorry, I'm gonna click these together. Bought the 337.50. Did you type this in the chat?
I'm sorry, I'm still typing because I'm slow and I'm
I've got it.
watching the chart. There you go.
Someone correct. Oh, you got it. All right, cool.
All right. So there it is in the chat. So you're buying the 337, you're selling the 34. Now with a two-way trade, the way to think about it is your two sell sides are your real box. So the call that you're selling and the put that you're selling really represent your box. That's where you need the market to go. Here we're asking, hey, we need MSTR to move up about 14 bucks or we need to move down about 16 bucks. No, actually about 18 now. Move down about 18 bucks. If it does either of those things in the next 11 days, it gets on our side, we're going to start being on kind of on the winning side of the trade. And then if it stays outside the box, then that trade's going to get more and more valuable. And so one of the things that I do here is I actually just throw a target on for 20% or so, maybe 25%. And that way, if we get a big move, MSTR kicks up 10% in a day or collapses 8% in a day, then we're going to be out of the position. We're going to hit our target. And that way, even if it kind of flutters back into that zone, we don't really care because we're out with profit. Now, it's going to be interesting. I'll say this. MSTR not long ago would have been one of my favorite ones to trade. Yeah, I'll throw the expiration there. Give me 1 second. Would have been one of my favorite ones to trade. But with Bitcoin kind of being a little more resilient and risk off, it's going to be interesting to see if MSCR actually remains quite as, volatile and making those 8-10% moves as what we've seen historically. Because, historically, a $15 move is absolutely nothing for MSCR. Now, Bitcoin's being a little more conservative. It's being a little more, storing value. And Bitcoin's making more like, 2% moves, 3% moves on big days like today. Let me go ahead and throw the May 2nd date in there for everyone.
May 2nd. Yeah, expiration May 2nd, guys. And if you look at the ATR, like just zoom out here. So we have about 2 weeks until this date. We have a couple things to note. One, look at the ATR. It's at 26 right now, which is actually pretty low for MicroStrategy. Typically 32. I shouldn't even say low. That's just a crazy number anyways. It's a 10% ATR. Not quite, but pretty close to 10% versus like, let's go to a stock. I don't know. Progressive, is a 3% ATR. And that's even high for this stock. Typically, it's much lower. So MicroStrategy, very volatile stock, not uncommon for it to make big moves. I mean, even if you look at the last month of trading, it swung from 350 to 250. That's a 30% swing in the stock
Yeah.
over a couple of weeks. So when we only need, what is that, about a 5% swing in either direction?
Yeah,
It's
exactly. So,
not uncommon for it to swing 30%. And we also have earnings too. So there's a lot of volatility to be anticipated for this stock, which is why I like this trade a lot, Nate. And especially with, I mean, Bitcoin, it just keeps going. Almost at, it's running. Look at this. It's
yeah,
running
it's
today.
but just I mean just to be a little pessimistic about my own trade. But by the way, I took the trade. I like the trade. I think MSTR has moved that much more often than not. But just to be a little pessimistic about why I think MSTR might not be the sexiest two-way trade like it used to be. Take a day like today where it's actually underperforming Bitcoin so far.
True.
Whereas before we would see, sometimes Bitcoin would have a 3% day and MSTR would have an 11% day.
Right. I wonder how
So
the miners are.
but a couple 3% days were still way in the clear. You know what I mean? So you still have enough, I think, volatility. Like you said, the ATR still plenty big enough that just a couple days stacking a normal ATR move is going to get you there easily. And yes, this is all in one ticket. Your broker will probably call it an iron condor or a reverse iron condor, but you just stack all those trades in one ticket. Depending on what broker you use, usually you're going to click like the control button and add the two spreads together and then it'll just kind of populate all four legs. It'll call it, like I said, an iron condor, reverse iron condor, something like that. By the way, as I'm talking, MSCR ripping, just
I
grabbed
saw that. Yep.
another full percent there. Someone said the bid ask is too wide. I mean, the bid and ask and everything is wide right now, but I actually got filled below the low end. I got filled for $1.70. So I don't think the bid ask is killing us right now on the actual fills. It's just going to be wide kind of on everything. And then I'll usually use like a 20% target here, folks. So I'll usually put a target in maybe around like 210 on a trade like this. Just try to grab, 20, 25%, depending on how well I can get filled. And if we get a big outsized move, go ahead, take my money off the table, get on the sidelines. That way, if we get a big move and then it comes back into our box, we don't get hit with a loser even after we got a big move that we were planning on. Because the key for me and for most of my strategies, folks, I'm not trying to predict when the big move is going to happen. I don't think anyone saying, "Hey, listen, I'm trading this stock directionally, and on X time or X day, that's when we're going to get the big run," is a high probability way to trade, pretty much across the board. So for me, what I always try to set up trades where, yes, I'm directional in most cases. In this case, I'm bi-directional, and I'm not really trying to predict, hey, it's going to move here, it's going to finish here. Hey, anytime we get that big move, I'm going to try to get on the sidelines with profit. So we are both bullish and bearish on MSTR in this situation because MSTR is up 4% today, but we all know, news comes out tomorrow, the Bitcoin reserve is on hold, and MSTR is down 10% tomorrow when the market opens. Could just as easily happen. So that's why these two-way trades are obviously set up for this kind of crazy volatility.
Mm-hmm. Good question. If we're bullish on MicroStrategy, why not bring the box a little lower? Still aiming for the same debit, so we have better chance to hit target early. Definitely could. That's an adjustment you can make. I actually might lean the other way. Since I'm bullish on MicroStrategy, I might move the box a little higher and go for a little bit more risk to reward, if that makes sense. So it just depends where you are with it and your trading, what style you prefer.
Yeah. And by the way, stacking those, once you get comfortable with the strategy, moving those boxes around, really good way to trade. So for example, let's say you have something like Newton or Apex, or you have something that has, kind of high confidence momentum trade, and you want to trade just, let's all imagine that we're in 2023 or 2024 where you're trading that grinding higher market. Well, usually what happens in those grinder high markets is the market moves up, 1% on a good day, 1.5%, and then you get occasional flushes where you lose 2% or 3% in a day. Well, picture you're bullish on Progressive, you're bullish on Apple. You throw that trade up, you only have a small move up where it needs to go 1.5%, but then you just have that 2% lower side. That gives you a much cheaper, much better risk to reward, but still protects you from those kind of flushes. So there's a lot of different ways you can kind of manipulate the trade once you get comfortable with it, including making it more bullish and systematic. Wow, MSCR ripping right now, up over 4% now.
Yeah.
Right. Right after I said underperforming Bitcoin, now it's up 4%.
It's now outperforming.
Actually, Bitcoin's up 4.5. Wow, Bitcoin is
Yeah.
ripping right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
What is gold doing right now? Is it going too?
Not as high, but still, yeah,
That's parabolic.
3.2%. So Yeah, the daily chart just look. I mean, when's the last time you saw a daily chart on gold that looked
I
like that?
know.
So, guys, I'll go ahead and throw it back in here, and I'll go ahead and include a GTC limit. Add GTC limit once filled. So you got to be filled before you can set up your closing order, and you want to always have your limit as a credit. So when you pay a debit, you want to get a credit on the other side of that. Pay a debit, get a credit for more than you paid, and you'll be in good shape. Here, I put about 210. Like I said, around a 20% target here. And if I can make 20%, having no idea which way the market's going to move consistently, I'm going to be really happy with those. And yes, those sell sides, the sell call, the sell put, that's your range. That's where you want to move outside of. Like Graham said, a 4% move tomorrow, we're basically, at the top of that box. So we're going to give it 11 days to do that. If we could stack up a couple bullish days, one big news announcement, earnings, lots of things in between. Now, with earnings coming up, earnings is the 28th, I think. Is that right?
For MicroStrategy, I think it was May 1st.
Or is it May 1st? Okay. Yep, it is May 1st. So on May 1st, now you kind of have a bullet in the chamber here. So let's say that MSCR kind of slows down, isn't doing a whole lot, grinding, in between 325, 335. Well, the nice thing is May 1st gives you a chance to get outside that box kind of with one day left. In an ordinary circumstance, you wouldn't expect the stock to move 8% on the final day. Now it can easily move 8, 10, 12% on that final day. So doing this and including earnings in your box is another little hack. Now, granted, you pay a little more, not as much meat on the bone when you're including the earnings volatility in there, but it's a nice little way to give yourself that last chance. If you're already profitable on the trade, take your profit before earnings, get out of the trade. If you're not, let earnings try to give you a win in that situation.
Yep. Now we have my team. I asked them to do a special report on Apple this week. As you know, Apple, much like most tech stocks, has not been looking pretty. It's been getting hit really hard with the China tariffs, obviously the smartphone tariffs. Not good for Apple. It's been in this ugly downtrend, but we did see a pretty crazy pop last week on rumors that there's going to be an exemption on the smartphones, which would be very bullish for Apple. So I had my team put together a little report on how we look at Apple, how I look at Apple. I've posted it here in the chat for you guys for free. They wanted me to make it, people paid 97 bucks, 200 bucks, whatever for it. I said, nah, let's give it to people in the opening playbook for free. This is my 2025 perfect Apple outlook guide there for you in the chat. It's just a very, very brief overview of where Apple sits. Is it favorable to buy right now, or is it something you should wait on? I'm starting to turn very, very, I don't know the right way to say this. I think that it is a favorable time to buy, and I'm not saying that it can't go lower from here, but I'm saying if you look at the all-time highs, which Apple tends to get back to all-time highs at some point, we've got a very, very great buying opportunity, about $70 off the highs. So right now, that would be about a 40-something% return from here to get Apple back to all-time highs. Obviously, a very, very nice return that anyone would like to have. And the thing is, I don't believe it'll take years for it to happen. I think this is going to, once we start getting positive tariff news, once we get the dominoes starting to fall forward in the right direction, I think this will happen very, very quickly. So I want you guys to have this report in your hands. I posted it there in the chat. Now,
Yeah, I
again,
mean, dude,
last week,
I think Apple's going to be one of the ones. I mean, this is what I've been talking about a lot. Hang in there, look for the opportunities. When the market stabilizes, that's where I think people are going to be so far ahead of everyone else who got beat up and got put on the sidelines. I think Apple's going to be the one that has so many people jumping back on. As soon as there's enough optimism to get excited about the stock market, the liquidity that's going to flow into Apple is going to be insane.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now I probably shouldn't be showing you this, but this was last week, man. Nate, I was so excited because Apple, we had the sell signal here. It's just been down, 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 down. Last week we had this big open. This was the opening price last week. Now to give you guys an idea, I only needed it above this price to get an entry on Apple. So it opened up here. I'm like, oh, we're definitely going to be long Apple this week, but it faded like the rest of the market and just closed below it. So we didn't get a new entry last week, but I'm waiting patiently this week. We've got a big week with tariff news ahead and then earnings coming up the following week. So a lot to be excited about here with Apple as a potential really great, like amazing, historically amazing buying opportunity for Apple. If you guys take a screenshot here right now, you can see kind of the entry price I'm looking for right now. These are both dynamic right now. They're both set to the previous week's high as our entry. So Apple would need to come up here to 213. which may seem like a big jump. It's about $25 from where it is now. Not quite. What is that? $21 from where it is now. But as you can see, that's a very typical size candle for Apple right now with all this volatility. So today I'm going to talk through how I trade Apple, how I look at Apple, and why I think it could be a great opportunity to be looking at right now. I haven't talked about this in months, mostly because we saw this downward trend coming, right? We saw this sell signal, not worth talking about, not a lot of opportunity. Let's let it fizzle out and fade away, and then we'll bring it back later. And that's what we're doing today. So, with that said, Nate, are you good if I steal the screen share here and walk
Yep.
them through this perfect Apple trade?
Yeah, and one of the things I'll just say before you jump in with the Apple is that it's exactly the kind of thing that I look for. So if you just saw Graham's screen, basically where those arrows pop up, it's basically saying, not to steal any thunder here from the presentation, but it's basically saying like, hey, we love Apple. It's one of those, buying opportunities that I think we all are confident a year from now, we're going to say, yeah, wish I bought Apple when it was cheap, but we're going to time it based on when it actually proves itself with those, when it actually shows you that it's moving back up. And I think those are the kind of trades right now. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Tom. I'm going to talk to Tom tomorrow about the same kind of thing. Like, what are the stocks that we like that we think are good value, and then actually let them prove themselves that they're making the move, and then kind of jump on at that point. So like you have your hit list, and then you actually make the market move before you jump into it, which I think is kind of at the core of the Apple trade, and definitely at the top of my list of those stocks that I know a year from now I'm going to say, man, I wish I owned more Apple when it was cheap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My wife actually, Carly came to me the other day and says, I think it's a good time to buy Apple. I said, you know what? I think you're right. So that's funny. But anyways, I'm gonna give it a minute here. I'm gonna go catch some water and I'll be right back and we'll talk through Apple and why it's a great opportunity right now. This was a screenshot from last week, man. I was pumped up. We had an entry signal. It didn't end up closing above it, so you didn't miss the opportunity just yet where you have that opportunity still on the horizon. Maybe this week. We'll see. Maybe next week. Again, such a news-driven market, but this is going to be one of the stocks that really, really moves fast on the news. So hang tight. We'll be back here in just a moment to get started here with the perfect Apple trade. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Someone asked about the two-way trade. As long as it's within a couple pennies of that price, I think good to go. I don't think there's a significant um, a significant way to move the risk to reward outside unless you just really get crazy on the move. Someone's asking like, how to go for more than 25%. Really, unless you go for a historic move, you're probably going to be in that 25 to 30% potential profit on those type of trades because the market is planning for big moves, which is no surprise because the volatility, the ATRs are high. I do think ATRs are going to start really dropping right now, which is actually a good thing because it normally means the market's going to stabilize. If you guys were here a week or so ago, I talked about actually the ATRs coming down is actually one of the things you want to see for the market to stabilize. So they're probably going to start coming down. In fact, I would say they already have started coming down, and that'll help get a little more advantageous trades from just strictly from a risk to reward standpoint. But right now, you're going to try to take that volatility to your advantage. And then when you get a big move outside the range, then obviously, take your profit, get on the sidelines. If it melts back down or kind of evens out, you still have a good, opportunity anytime within the next 11 days to make that move. Now, what Graham's going to talk about totally different. He's talking about kind of your classical directional opportunities and taking advantage of the stocks that really can make those moves and churn out. So you have stocks that we all like that are high risk, like Tesla or Palantir and those kind of stocks. And then you have like the generational wealth builders like Apple, Microsoft, that when they get rolling, you can stack positions for sure and kind of take generational opportunities on a discount. I mean, just it doesn't take rocket scientists. Go back and look at an Apple chart in 2020 and 2009, and like just go through the years, and every single time you look back and think, wish I would have bought it when it started moving back up. And so I think that's kind of the basis for today. Oh, hey, you're back.
oh yeah, we're ready to roll. Now, obviously, guys, there's a lot of news in the headlines with tariffs, and it's directly affecting our favorite stocks like Nvidia, which luckily right now we have puts on in the Nvidia Elite program. It's gonna be like the fourth big hit in a row if things hold. But also that's affecting stocks like Apple, beloved Apple, which is trading way down, well below the highs. Again, if you were to buy right now and Apple returns to all-time highs, you're looking at about a 40% return. Now, this is a stock that tends to go back to all-time highs repeatedly, and it doesn't take years for it to happen. Once we get the dominoes to start to fall, this could happen very, very fast. So that's why I gave you guys that brand new Apple Outlook report so you guys can have that in hand, see kind of roughly what I'm looking at here. But I'm going to walk you through the strategy step by step so that if we do get a new entry this week, I want you to be the first to see about it, to know about it, to hear about it, because that could be a very, very opportune trade to make, especially again with it's very rare for Apple to be trading this low off the highs. It's an excellent opportunity to get started with Apple. So let me walk you through everything here. Now, my name is Graham Lindman, and before we get started, I'd like to ask you a quick question. If you could only trade one stock for the rest of your life, what stock would it be? Maybe Microsoft, maybe Nvidia. I love Nvidia. How about Tesla? Amazon? Well, for me, it's Apple. And that's because it's given us a chance to turn basic $5,000 investments into $19,500, $20,950, even $26,800 in just a few weeks' time. Now, I understand that sounds far-fetched, and for most folks, a five-figure return is very uncommon. But thanks to a cyclical pattern that's very specific to Apple itself, we now have the chance to target these types of returns on a very regular basis. Now, you guys know not all trades are going to win. There's going to be winners and losers, but we're able to specifically go for very, very large returns with Apple on a unique little pattern. Now, it all starts with the indicator that you see here in my chart. And as simplistic as it looks, it can help us determine the best and worst times to target Apple stock. You see, the indicator was designed to track the profit cycles that take place inside of shares of Apple. When we see the green arrow, it means Apple is entering its next profit cycle. And when we see the red arrow, it means the cycle has come to an end. And just by following the arrows, we've been able to ride some of Apple's most lucrative profit cycles. Now, to understand how it all works, let's take a step back to November 3rd. Now, for most folks, this was a pretty dreary day. The economic numbers came in weaker than expected. Jobless claims rose, and several mega cap stocks reported lower guidance. Now, for most traders, it was a clear signal to sit on the sidelines and maybe wait for a better opportunity, but not for me. That's because on that day, November 3rd, our arrow flashed green on Apple, and you can see it right there. Now, this was a clear indication that the stock was entering its next profit cycle. And sure enough, the indicator was right as Apple cycled higher for the next 40 days. Now, anyone who opened a basic trade, just a basic call option, when the arrow appeared, could have captured a 319% return. That's like turning $5,000 into $20,000 in just a few weeks. And that's the beauty of this indicator. As long as the green arrow is present, we've had the chance to capitalize on Apple's next profit cycle. Now, keep in mind, this was not a back-tested example. This is not a theoretical example. My indicator identified the start of this profit cycle, and we actually posted this 319% return. I took it with my own money, just like I do with all of my trades. I grabbed a 319% return on this trade. Now, in fact, over the last year, we've targeted these cycles 18 times with an average return of 83%, including both winners and losers. Now, some of our best trades include a 290% winner on Apple, 343% winner, and even a 436% winner on Apple. Now, let me be clear. What I'm showing you is not common knowledge. Most folks don't know these cycles exist, and very few know how to identify them. But they often take shape due to a buildup of buying pressure that's very specific to Apple stock. And again, with all the tariff news in the headlines, one small domino to fall over, we're going to see an insane amount of buying pressure build up, like we kind of saw briefly last week. Now, thanks to our indicator, we've been able to target them for some abnormally large returns. For example, let's look at what happened in January. Now, if you don't remember, it was a very chaotic time for Apple. For starters, iPhone production had fallen by 20% in their largest global factory, and as a result, share prices slid 16% in just 8 weeks' time. Now, many analysts were predicting more downside in the weeks ahead. However, on January 13th, all of that became irrelevant. You see, that's the day that the green arrow flashed on the chart. And once again, it was a clear indication that Apple was entering its next profit cycle. Sure enough, the indicator in this example was right, as Apple cycled higher for the next 43 days. Now, anyone who opened a basic trade when the arrow appeared could have captured an 88% return on this investment. Now, that's the same thing as turning $5,000 into $9,400. And with returns like that, you don't need to do much else. There's no dinking around technical patterns, no day trading. No late nights researching your next great investment. It's just one basic trade on one legendary stock. And that's part of the reason I'm here today. I'm going to show you how to access the indicator and how to target our next profit cycle. As you'll see, it's much easier than you might expect because it has nothing to do with overly complicated trading tactics. It doesn't require hours of study, and it won't keep you glued to your computer 24/7. We simply buy when the indicator turns green, ride the cycle for what it's worth, and then sell when the indicator turns back red. In fact, we call this unique setup the perfect Apple trade. And that's because it can allow us to target years worth of Apple's best returns in just a few weeks' time. For example, let's jump back to the bear market of 2022. Now, for most folks, this was a very challenging time to be an investor. Every major stock and sector was trading well below their previous highs. However, on June 24th, the green arrow flashed. Once again, this was a clear signal that Apple was entering its next profit cycle, and anyone following along was probably skeptical. After all, Apple was down by nearly 25%, very similar to what we're seeing right now. But sure enough, the indicator was right. It was spot on, and Apple cycled higher for the next 64 days. Now, anyone who bought shares the old-fashioned way, they would have done very, very nicely. 21% gain in over 2 months. Not bad. But anyone who used the perfect Apple trade could have seen a 364% return instead. Now, to put that in perspective, a 5K starting stake would have turned into more than $23,000. Now, in most cases, it's very hard to find a return of that size without doing something extreme. But thanks to the cyclical nature of these profit cycles, it's not as crazy as it looks. Actually, according to our research, there have been roughly 35 confirmed cycles since 2015. And by leveraging them the right way, they have offered years worth of returns in just a few weeks' time. And that's the real reason I've invited you here today. You see, our indicator just flashed for the second time this year. And based on what's happening today, I believe it could lead to one of the most promising cycles we'll see in 2025. Remember, we got a little hint at smartphone tariffs being the tariffs being delayed for the time being. And we saw Apple pop like crazy, and it's since faded since then. But I think if we get any more news like that, we could see a very, very awesome run up. In fact, I am my first profit target at 220. If you grab that report, you probably know that. And my second profit target at 250, which would be back to all-time highs. Now, of course, I can never promise a future return. Despite the success we've seen, we both know that there are no guarantees in trading. Wealth is not built overnight, but rather through a series of good decisions and strong setups. And that's why I want to share the indicator and show you how to execute the perfect Apple trade inside your own account today. Now, if this is your first webinar with me, my name is Graham Lindman. And despite turning 30 this year, actually next month, I've been trading the market for more than a decade. I started using trading software before I could even drive a car. And in my 20s, I studied technical analysis under two of the top minds in finance. Fast forward to today, and many of my strategies have posted triple-digit growth with an accuracy greater than 70%. Here you see a few of them right there. And some of my best trades include a $5,000 winner on Path, actually $7,120 there. A $17,000 winner on Fortinet. I told you guys I don't like shorting Fortinet, but this day I did. I bought puts on it, 436% there. Even a $34,000 winner on Mara. Now, as great as all of that is, it pales in comparison to what I'm going to show you today. You see, the perfect Apple trade is not just another trading strategy. It's not some sort of fad, and it's not something that will fizzle out in a year. It taps into the fundamental nature of Apple's recurring profit cycles, and it's given us a huge investment advantage. Now, I felt the effects inside my own account and have seen it in countless others too. Here are just a few notes from some of our top students. Kay said, keep the winning streak going. Apple, 100% plus 3 times in a row. Carson said, made about $450 on a small first trade on Apple. Cyrus did 130% on the Apple call and then 100% on a couple of the other flash calls. Big Ed did 70% on the trade. He says, you're doing a great job for a young guy. Carson here said, keep them coming. Perfect Apple trades banked around $2,000 in profit. Patrice said, in my first perfect Apple trade, up 100%. Of all my strategies, this is the one that seems to never disappoint. Now listen, if you're getting burnt out on trading, I totally understand. The last few months have been very unpredictable. We've dealt with 5 major market crashes, a totally new administration, trade wars, tariffs, inflationary pressure, soaring debt, and a host of other issues as well. So if exploring a new strategy sounds exhausting, I hear you. But don't throw in the towel quite yet. Because there's a new way to simplify your approach to trading, and it all starts by focusing on one incredible stock with an infinite amount of opportunities. You see, in my years of being a trader, I find that most folks do too much at once. They'll trade multiple strategies across multiple stocks, options, and asset classes too. Now, they're a jack of all trades, but a master of none. And if you look at the statistics, 99% of traders lose way more than they win, and that's not just a coincidence. However, the most successful traders often leverage the same setup on the same stock, and they do it over and over again. And while that might seem boring and repetitive, the returns have been anything but boring. For example, let's look at what happened to us on Friday, May 3rd. Now, that's the day that the indicator said that Apple was entering its next profit cycle. And from a general perspective, it didn't make much sense. Market sentiment was bearish, large cap tech was getting slaughtered, and Apple had traded lower for its fourth consecutive month in a row. However, all of that became irrelevant when the green arrow flashed. Once again, it was a clear indication that Apple was entering its next profit cycle. And sure enough, the indicator was spot on because Apple cycled higher for the next 77 days from there. There you see it. And anyone using the perfect Apple trade could have seen a 436% gain in 77 days. Now, to put that in perspective, shares of Apple paid out an average of 25% per year. Yet this one perfect Apple trade paid out an incredible 436% in just a fraction of the time. Now, that's 12 years of returns baked into one perfect Apple trade. And keep in mind, this trade was not a back-tested trade either, not a theoretical trade. Our indicator flashed, and I personally published this trade for hundreds of different traders, and I took it with my own money too. Now, it was our best trade of the year, and $1,000 into this one would have transformed into $5,360. $5,000 would have turned into $26,800. Now, I don't care who you are, but that's a meaningful chunk of change, and it all started with just one powerful profit cycle. Now, it might look like these cycles come at random, but that's just not the case. They're actually quite predictable. They often form due to a consistent buildup of institutional buying pressure. You see, Apple is not just some boring tech stock, it's the backbone of the entire financial world. In fact, it's the number one core holding for almost every major institutional fund on the planet. Now, this includes mutual funds, hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, index funds, and your basic 401k. Every month, people from around the globe contribute billions of dollars to these funds. And since Apple is often the largest holding, it sees the largest allocation of capital. Now, this unintentionally creates massive amounts of buying pressure in the underlying stock. And some experts will tell you that this pressure provides stability to Apple's share price. But in my opinion, it's a driver of growth, and it's been this way for decades. You see, this pressure can build to extremely high levels. When the pressure gets too high, it can reverse the stock's trend and spark a new profit cycle. Now, the key is knowing when that may happen, and that's where our indicator comes to play. When the green arrow flashes, we know that buying pressure has peaked and a new profit cycle could be forming. For example, like in April 2020, let's go back 5 years ago. And if you don't remember, we were still in the midst of the pandemic. Actually, it was just getting started. Fear was at an all-time high. Optimism was at an all-time low. And every stock on the planet, for the most part, including Apple, was trending in one clear direction, straight down. However, according to the research, the green arrow flashed on Friday, April 10th. It was an indication that Apple was under an extreme amount of buying pressure and likely entering its next profit cycle. Now, sure enough, once again, you see here the indicator was right. Apple cycled higher for the next 106 days, and anyone who bought shares the old-fashioned way could have seen a 35% return. Again, that's why I say right now it's probably a great time to be buying Apple for shares. 35% return in under a year, man, everyone would love that. That's pretty good. But anyone using the perfect Apple trade, right, the way I do it, could have seen a 381% return instead. And I just want to assure you, this isn't a spread. This isn't some sort of iron condor or anything like that. This is just a basic call option. Because these cycles are so explosive, I just use basic call options. Now, $5,000 into the underlying stock would have turned into $6,750. Not bad. But that same $5,000 into the perfect Apple trade would have turned into $24,050. And keep in mind, this all happened right in the middle of the chaos. Millions of Americans were still on lockdown. Job cuts were coming by the thousands. And most folks were banking on a $600 stimulus check to come in the mail. Meanwhile, the perfect Apple trade would have posted a five-figure return. Now, for most folks, that might seem unrealistic. But when you're working with profit cycles, it's much more common than you might think. Like I said, our data shows 35 confirmed profit cycles dating back to 2015. Some cycles have lasted more than 100 days, some as few as 14. But we find that the average cycle lasts between 40 to 50 days. And when we apply the perfect apple criteria, the average return per cycle has been upwards of 83%. And based on what's happening right now, I could be posting our next perfect apple opportunity this very week. Now, obviously, I can't promise a future return with any strategy. There's bound to be big wins, small wins, and even the occasional loss. But if you'd like the trade details, I'd be happy to share it with you. I'll even share the steps to upload the complete Apple indicator to your stock charts. It's really sweet, looks awesome. You got the chart, you got the up arrow, down arrows, you got this the dot plot down below, which just tells you if it's a bullish or bearish cycle. And then Apple News over here on the left, profit target, entry price, trigger prices. It's really awesome. But before we get there, let me walk you through the indicator and show you how to set up the perfect Apple trade. Now, obviously, the indicator is not magic. It can't predict the future, but it can help us identify what could be Apple's next profit cycle. Now, in order to do that, it tracks the buying pressure inside shares of Apple. It takes into account several different technical factors, but everything can be boiled down to the behavior of the weekly candle. Hear me out, weekly candle. When it comes to Apple, the weekly candle is often the best gauge for buying pressure. You see, under normal buying conditions, Apple's weekly candle only expands about 2% per week. You see it there. That's a weekly candle, not a huge amount of volatility there or movement. However, during the times of extreme buying pressure, the weekly candle can expand by 5% or more. And that's where the entry begins. It doesn't fire unless Apple's weekly candle expands by at least 5%. Now, for example, let's step back to the week of July 24th. For this 5-week span, you can see how Apple was trading under the normal buying conditions. We know this because these 5 weekly candles fell within their normal 2% range. However, according to our research, the green arrow flashed, indicating an extreme amount of buying pressure. Now you can see what I mean right there. Just look at the difference of the candle size, way bigger. Now this weekly candle expanded by a whopping 13%. Now, generally speaking, it takes billions of dollars in concentrated buying pressure to create this type of candle. And in this case, it was a clear signal that Apple was entering its next profit cycle. Sure enough, Apple traded higher for the next 36 straight days. And anyone who would have purchased the underlying stock could have made 16%. But anyone using the perfect Apple trade could have seen a 360% return instead. Now, that's the same thing as watching $5,000 turn into more than $23,000. Now, for some of you, that might change the trajectory of your year. For others, it would be barely noticeable. But thanks to our indicator, we've had the chance to target similar returns on a regular basis. Now, obviously, the indicator, it does not fire every single week. It only fires when extreme amounts of buying pressure causes the weekly candle to expand by at least 5%. And that's not a super common occurrence. We only see it happen a few times per quarter, usually when the institutions rebalance their holdings. But when the green arrow fires, we know that Apple is on the verge of its next profit cycle. For example, let's look at what happened on October 23rd. Once again, you can see very normal pressure taking place in the stock. However, on the 27th, Friday the 27th, the green arrow flashed, indicating an extreme amount of buying pressure. And you can see what I'm talking about here. Just notice the size of this candle in comparison to the others. It's more than twice the size, probably more than triple the size. And that's because it expanded by more than 5%, right? Our key entry signal. Now, once again, this was a clear indication that Apple was likely entering its next profit cycle. And sure enough, the stock cycled higher for the next 22 days. Now, just $5,000 into the underlying shares would have turned into $5,396. But $5,000 into the perfect Apple trade would have turned into $10,000 during that same time, same trade, just by using the basic call options. And that's the real beauty behind the perfect Apple trade. Using nothing more than our indicator and a little common sense, we can target years worth of Apple returns in just a few weeks' time. And in my opinion, it's one of the smartest ways to approach the market. It takes the least amount of effort, yet offers the maximum amount of potential. And we don't have to watch the market, every tick it makes every single day. We don't need dozens of different indicators, and we don't have to be glued to the computer. We simply buy when the indicator turns green, ride the cycle for what it's worth, and sell when the indicator turns back red. And that brings me to the opportunity I'd like to share with you today. You see, for the second time this year, our indicator fired. Last week, it fired green, and then Apple pulled back a little bit from there. So right now, Coming off the back of the reduction in tariffs proposed by President Trump, we're sitting on what could be a really, really great opportunity, and we just need it to trigger once more this week. Now, in my opinion, this is an incredibly bullish opportunity. It's a sign that the institutions are rebuilding their positions in Apple. And it wouldn't be impossible to see the share price break through 220 and move ahead to 250, like I've outlined for you guys. That would be a 25% gain on the underlying stock alone. On the options, it would be much, much bigger. And the best part is that we can get a new trade alert as soon as this very week. Now, if you'd like the complete trade details, I'd be happy to share it with you. I just need to confirm the entry. We're going to wait this week, see what the candle looks like. And if we get that buying opportunity, it's coming to you right away, right here at the dip. And I'm really excited for it. It's all part of a special trading bundle that we're called the Perfect Apple Pro. Now, as far as I know, it's the only research service dedicated to trading Apple's profit cycles. And as of today, over 2,000 members are tracking these cycles with me. I'm sure a lot of you are here in the chat. Now, historically speaking, we've won at least 6 out of every 10 trades we've made, and some of our most recent winners include 56% winner on Apple, 132% winner, 155% winner, and you can see there's some bigger ones too, 319%, 290%, 132, 343, and even 436. But if history repeats itself, we could blow all of that out of the water. You see, with the scale back in tariffs, it positions Apple's in a new light. Under the original proposal, Apple would have paid around 145% tariff on imports to the US. After the recent reduction, down to about 20%. And don't forget, under Trump's first presidency, Apple loved what Trump did for it. The stock rocketed 365%. Now, that took place over 13 major profit cycles. Some of the best included a 439% gain, 419% gain, and even a 360% gain. But this time around, I think the opportunity could be even bigger. You see, Apple is it's a prime beneficiary of many of the deregulation and tax policies. Lower tax rates and less regulation offers more cost savings and a higher earnings potential. Now, those numbers look even better now that the tariffs have been scaled way back on electronics. Now, in my opinion, this will attract billions, if not trillions of dollars in institutional investments like we're seeing right now. This additional buying pressure could easily accelerate the profit cycle that we've seen over the next few years. And with the indicator as our guide, we'll be in the perfect position to capitalize. So if you'd like the trade details this week, here's how it works. Each week, our indicator is busy monitoring the buying pressure in Apple stock. On Monday, it'll print the price the weekly candle needs to reach in order to trigger a green arrow. If you guys were here earlier on the opening playbook, you saw that number. And it'll also mark on your chart with a yellow line so you can see exactly how far the candle needs to stretch for us to get that entry. Now, as you know, it needs to expand by at least 5% by Friday. If at any time it reaches that price, it'll trigger a green arrow indicating that this could be the start of a new profit cycle. From there, I'll double check the entry trade criteria and send you the perfect Apple trade. And if everything plays out as expected, we'll simply ride the cycle until it tells us when to sell. Now, over the next year, you can expect between 20 and 30 unique trade alerts. It'll be dependent on the number of cycles we'll see. Now, as you might expect, the perfect Apple trade involves options. It's what allowed us to target such large returns in such a short amount of time. Now, if you're new to options, don't worry. I'll give you the exact option criteria for each perfect Apple trade. It'll include the strike price, the entry, the expiration, and the exit. Everything you need to know to quickly enter the trade in your own account. And again, these aren't confusing spreads. If you guys don't like spreads, I love spreads. But if you don't like spreads, don't worry. These are just basic calls, level 1 options. No guesswork, no confusion, and trade notifications will be sent each Friday morning via text, email, and Telegram. All you have to do is read the alert and decide to follow along if you like. And just so you know, there will be times when the setup is not perfect. When that happens, I won't be issuing a trade alert. We're not here to lose money by forcing trades. Instead, I'll send you a notification with an update on the stock and targets for our next opportunity. But here's the thing. I don't want this to be your typical alert service. I believe that these cycles can drastically move the needle in your trading. I've seen it firsthand. And that's why I want to give you the complete access to the perfect Apple indicator as well. This is the same indicator I've been using to target these cycles over the last year. Now, not only will I show you how to install it on your charts, but I'll also teach you how to use it. As you'll see, it's quite intuitive. The green and red arrows will help you identify the beginning and end of each profit cycle. The dots at the bottom will tell you if Apple's in a profit cycle or not. Just a quick glance, you can easily see. The green dots mean Apple's actively in a profit cycle. The red dots means Apple's out out of the cycle. And the entry instructions at the top will give you the entry trigger, the trailing stop loss, and more information for you. Now, I could easily charge $9.97 for the entire dashboard, but today I'll include it in your membership for free. Now, I've put an instant install link inside the members area so you can access it right away. And with a few clicks, you'll be able to upload the perfect Apple indicator to your Thinkorswim account. Now, of course, I wouldn't just send you the indicator and wish you good luck. While I think you'll find it very user-friendly, I'd like to help you maximize its true potential. And that's why I'll be inviting all new members to our recorded Perfect Apple Masterclass. This is where I've dove into the finer details of the dashboard, the perfect Apple trade, how the trade works, and you guys can see it right now. The recording is in the members portal. And with a little practice, I think you can master this particular Apple setup. Keep in mind, guys, you don't even have to use the indicator if you don't want. We've got some questions here. Does it work with your brokerage? If you guys don't even want the indicator, don't worry about it. I'm going to send you all the entries and exits anyways, so you don't even have to look at the chart. And I've seen the results of folks just following along, just hear what they had to say. Howard made 214% on the Apple trade, $1,200 for him. Richard, look at this. He did 655% on one of these Apple trades. Omar made $2,800. Warren did 160% on Apple calls. Rochelle, 655 on Apple. Now, obviously, I'm not guaranteeing you'll have the same success that they've had. These are a few of our top students. Now, everyone moves at different speeds and has different goals. But regardless of what goals you have, I think pairing the indicator with the perfect Apple trade alerts can help you achieve them. It's really, really cool, and I want you to have it. Now, maybe that's to become a more proficient trader. Maybe your goal is to accelerate your retirement fund or to close your first 100% plus gain. Whatever it is, I believe it could be much more attainable with these two assets at your disposal. Now, I'll be wrapping up in just one moment, but I'd like to share one more detail about your membership. It's a way to leverage the perfect Apple trade to the downside. Now, as I've mentioned, there have been about 35 profit cycles dating back to 2015, but there's been just as many bearish cycles too. And just like a profit cycle, they can last between 14 to 100 days. And that offers a totally new set of opportunities that we call perfect Apple puts. Now, the way they work are the same way as the perfect Apple trade, except they go to the downside. In this case, we'll wait for the red arrow to flash, and instead of waiting to trade long, we'll just take our trade short. In fact, many of our fastest returns have come from the perfect Apple puts strategy. That includes an 85% return in just 1 week, 91% return in 13 days. And keep in mind, those were real trades, not some back test. $5,000 into either of those would have turned into at least $9,250. Now, that's over a $4,000 profit on 2 different occasions. And in this case, we had the chance to do it while the stock was headed south. Now, for traders like us, this is a massive perk. It gives us a chance to target meaningful returns regardless of which direction the stock is headed. Now, I could easily sell perfect Apple puts as a standalone service, but I would never do that. My goal has always been to teach you how to make money, not take it from you. And that's why I'm including these powerful setups with your membership at no extra cost. It's free, included for no extra charge. Now, I just showed you 2 different instances where you had the chance to capture a $4,000 profit. And with that type of potential, it's easy to see why the Perfect Apple Pro membership starts at $2,149. Now, that includes the Perfect Apple trade alerts, the options criteria, the indicator, the masterclass sessions, the put alerts, and a few other perks that I've yet to mention yet. But today, new members can take advantage of this very special bonus. Like I said, our average return, including both winners and losers, has been 83% over the last year. That means $1,000 invested into every issued alert would have averaged $830 in profit. And you would have had quite a few of those in your pocket. So today, I'm going to give you 1 free trade on the house. I'm going to give you $830 off the normal retail price. So instead of seeing $2,149 price tag, you'll be able to secure access to the complete Perfect Apple Pro package for a one-time payment of $1,319. Now, what you do with that savings, that $800 off, that's up to you, but it could go towards your first trade alert. So if you're interested, you'll want to get your credit card ready right now, and here's why. For the new members who joined during today's webinar, I'm also going to add an additional year to your membership at no cost. That's right. I'm going to give you 1 additional year of trade alerts for free. So you're going to get a 2-year deal today. Now, that's at least 20 additional trade alerts over the course of your membership. In fact, you can get the newest trade as soon as this week, assuming we get that entry that we're looking for. Again, this is a huge, huge opportunity right now with the way that Apple is trading down below. It's well below its fair value. We get 1 or 2 good news headlines, and this thing's going to rocket. So, guys, go to prosperitypub.com/PAP. And you can also click the link in the chat. Now, I didn't realize this, but Raleigh just posted this. The discount today ends at midnight. So it's a 1 day deal we're doing here on the opening playbook session. So if you're thinking about it, go ahead and lock in that deal right now so you can get that discount before it goes up at midnight. Now, all the details of your new membership are on the next page. And if you prefer to speak to someone, give us a call 904-706-3537 and they will get you taken care of. Now, everyone who joins me today will automatically receive 1 extra year of trade alerts plus the instant $830 discount. So to get started today, go to prosperitypub.com/PAP or simply just click that link that Raleigh posted in the chat. Now, over the last year, our profit factor has been incredible. And look at this, $5,000 starting out flat, not compounded, would be worth $75,000 in profit based on our trade log. That's pretty darn good, right? That's a little over a year's worth of trade, $75,000. Now, keep in mind that growth came through both wins and losses. No one wins all the time. The key is making sure that the wins drastically outweigh the losses. And that's what's made the perfect apple trade so special, because our winners outweigh the losses by almost 3-1. That's a really, really good profit factor. So to get started today, give us a call, 904-706-3537. They'll lock in that 2-year special for you. Now, my customer care team is standing by and ready to help. So feel free to ask for Chad, Caitlin, or Ashley. They'll all get you taken care of. Now, they are all well of today's special 2-year deal and discount. They know that it's a limited time offer for the opening playbook members. So guys, click that link in the chat to get started with the perfect apple trade. Harold, yes, it is. Now, I'll take your questions in just a minute, but first, let me address some of the most common questions. Question number 1, how much money does it cost to take advantage of the perfect apple trade? The answer is the average entry is around $400 per contract, but it's very common to see entries below $200. As a matter of fact, I typically give you guys a few different choices to take. I'll say here's a more aggressive one, here's a more moderate one, and here are the different prices so you guys can do what's best for you. For example, look at one of our most recent alerts. We were able to get in for $143 and sell for $365. That was a 155% gain. Now, the point is you don't need tens of thousands of dollars to take this trade. Now, if you put 10 grand in this, you would have made $15,000, but you don't need 10 grand. Question number 2, how long are we in each trade? Good questions. Some cycles can last for as many as 100 days. Some are just 2 weeks. But generally speaking, the longer the cycle, the better return, right? We want to see it run up over time. Now, our longest hold was 77 days, right? You can see it right there. And that one was worth 436%. But the average hold time has been about 21 days. Now, another question is, are there any instructional videos to help us install the perfect apple indicator? Absolutely. I've already uploaded the videos showing you how to add the indicator to Thinkorswim. That said, if you need support, I'll grant you complimentary access to our customer support trade room. This is every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. Our CS team is live in the room. We call it customer service live. They can walk you through installation. They can walk you through how the indicator works and everything you need to know. Now, question number 4, how will I know when it's time to close a perfect apple trade? Well, exits will come via text, email, and Telegram. Is there any sort of guarantee today? Of course. If you follow me for any amount of time, you know that everything I do has a guarantee. So here's the deal. I want you to try out the perfect apple trade for the next 14 days. If the indicator does not help you make better decisions and the alerts don't live up to your expectations, I'll buy it back from you. It's all part of my industry-leading buyback guarantee. Simply call our team within the next 14 days and we'll get you squared away. Now, of course, I don't expect that to happen because the perfect apple trade has quickly become one of my favorite strategies. It's safe enough to trade with a large size, but explosive enough to offer some serious potential. Now, if things go as I expect, I would not be surprised if you covered the cost of your membership during the next profit cycle. Of course, I can't promise you that will happen, but I've seen it happen many times before. Greg here did it, covered the cost 3 times over on one trade. Howard B. said made over $5,000, paid more than his lifetime cost. Ken said I made profits much greater than the cost of my lifetime membership within a couple of weeks. HB said took 3 of the recommendations. All 3 were a profit, well worth the cost. You will quickly recoup the cost. Now, if you haven't filled out the order form yet, go to prosperitypub.com/PAP or give us a call at 904-706-3537. And when you do, you'll be one step closer to joining some of my most successful students across my services. So click that link in the chat to get started. And here you can see just some more of these stories. Terry said 2 100% profits, taking the 3rd trade now. Val says, I love the most your perfect apple trade strategy is that you recommend low, moderate, and high-risk trades. Tried all 3 and made some money. Joe got in yesterday, up already 50%. Michael R., First trade, $1,800 in profit. Richie P, first trade up 400% in 7 days with over $1,000 in profit. Here's Richard. He said 97% on 1 day in the trade. Ben says my first two trades were both 100% in a week. So, guys, again, click that link in the chat to get started. I've got a new special report for you guys that I'll post here in the chat. I'll drop that report link here in just a moment. But, guys, make sure you're going here to the link, prosperitypub.com/PAP to get started with the perfect Apple trade. Now, I do have a bonus for you guys here today. Raleigh just posted. Thank you, Raleigh, guys. That report is in the chat. It'll give you a little insight to what I'm looking at right now, what I think of the opportunity at hand. But I appreciate you all for being here. Hope you guys had some fun. Hopefully you learned some things in the opening playbook, and we at least got to communicate back and forth where we're seeing things and why I'm so excited about Apple right now. Now, Raleigh, I do have to run. I got to get trade alerts out. I got to get back to the markets. I've been on here for an hour and a half now, but I see you there. I appreciate you hopping on. And if you don't mind, take it from here, answer some questions, and bring us home. Thank you, Raleigh.
All right, that sounds great. Well, folks, once again, that was Graham Lindman sharing his flagship approach to how he likes to go ahead and trade Apple. So let me go ahead and grab the screen here. Let me see. Okay, and I'm going to share. There you go. So once again, this was complete presentation with regard to how Graham likes to trade Apple. It's called the Apple Pro Trade, and as you can see, there's a very, very special price been put together for this. As a matter of fact, what I'd like to do, let's see here. I want to go ahead and share some information with you. I'd like to go ahead and just give you a rundown on the pricing that's available to you. So once again, the special pricing that's been put together, and this is good until midnight tonight, wherever you are in the United States. So midnight New York, midnight Chicago, midnight LA. But there's a 2-year price is $1,319. Now, for those of you that are interested in getting lifetime access to the Perfect Apple Pro, the upsell is $795. So the total price for lifetime is $2,114. And as Graham said, there's a 14-day money-back guarantee, regardless of whether you go with the 2-year program or the VIP program. So you have 14 calendar days from when you make your purchase to let us know if you'd like your money back. No questions asked. We will refund every penny of your investment. Also, just want to let you know that this is a live presentation and it has been recorded. And if any of you would like to have a link to a copy of this presentation, all you have to do here is put your name and email address in the chat and say, send me the replay. And we'll be glad to go ahead and send that out to you. So once again, the focus today was on the Perfect Apple Pro. And you can see the special pricing that we've put together there. It includes those Perfect Apple trade alerts, the Perfect Apple indicator. By the way, that indicator does work on Thinkorswim. That's the only charting platform it works on at this point in time. But as Graham said, it's not essential that you have that indicator to take advantage of this program. This is essentially an alert program where Graham is going to go ahead and feed you the alerts, everything that you need to know to be able to get into the trade. And he also will send you exit alerts as well. So we include the Perfect Apple options criteria. There's the Perfect Apple put alerts, because once again, when you're just focused on one particular ticker, it's nice to know that when you're in a bullish cycle, we're going to take advantage of it. But if the ticker should move into, or if Apple should move into a bearish cycle, we've got put options available to you as well. These are directional trades, folks, so nothing particularly sexy on the option side. You're talking about level 1 options. So if you've got a bullish signal, you're going to be buying a put. If you've got a bearish signal, you're going to be buying, if you have a bullish signal, you'll be buying a call. If you have a bearish signal, you'll be buying a put. Excuse me for getting that mixed up. But anyway, very, very straightforward. And you're going to get the alerts via text, email, and Telegram notifications. There is a 14-day money-back guarantee. And if you have any questions at all, we have an installation team, support team that's there to help you out. And as Graham mentioned, every day from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we have customer service live available to you. You go into your members area and you just click on that link, and it'll take you right into an active Zoom room where you can ask any questions about not only this product, but all the products and services that we supply here at the Prosperity Pub and at the Trading Pub. The team is wonderful. They're traders. They understand, how the markets work, and they fully understand the products and services that they sell. And we can go ahead and answer those questions for you. In looking at the chat panel, I see several people would like a replay. That's great. I see Kurt that's here. You said send me the replay. Kurt, I need your email address so that I can send that to you. So if Kurt doesn't mind sending me, providing your email address, that would be great. And once again, on this special offer that we have right here, the price is for 2 years. It's not a 1-year program. It is a 2-year program. So I know that, I think that's great that he's gone ahead and done that. He wants to make sure that people are in this program, are with him and part of this community for a long period of time. So you have a 2-year option and you have a lifetime option with this program. Okay. And so let's see, are there any additional questions, folks, that I can answer for you? A bunch of people here are asking for the replays. Yep. And by the way, your information on the chat panel, that's private. I'm the only one that sees your email information. And when we're done here, I will send that obviously to our customer care team, and they'll send you the link as soon as it's available. So I hope everybody had a nice Easter weekend, nice relaxing time with friends and family. I certainly know that I did. It was a nice long weekend. If we throw Good Friday in there, a 3-day weekend. And you see what's going on in the markets right now. Just look at it. Ooh, yeah, I can see. Yeah, just looking at the QQQ and the SPY, we're trading at daily lows at this point in time. So obviously, ongoing concerns about the impact of tariffs and things of that nature is weighing down the markets big time. Let me check something else out here. See that crude is trading at 62. Gold, kind of a high flyer, 34.29 is what it's currently selling up. So I have a question here from a couple of folks that are wondering about the money back guarantee. It's 14 days, and just concerned that, is that enough time to really try the program out? Well, when you join the program, obviously you're going to have full access to everything that's there in the program, all the educational material and the trade tracker. So you can go ahead and see the performance of the system on live trade alerts. What we don't want to do is we don't want to tie up your capital for any extended period of time in these programs, and we believe 14 days should be sufficient. If that doesn't work for you, then obviously you have choices as to what you do. But this is not a reflection of a lack of confidence in this program whatsoever. We just once again, we encourage people to get into our programs. We certainly hope that you're not buying our program with the intent of getting a refund, but we look to over deliver on all of our commitments to you. And once again, from that standpoint, we appreciate your question and your concern about that. And but we just want to let you know that we back everything up with a full money back guarantee. All right. Okay. So additional people are looking for the replay. Outstanding. Okay, great. All right then, folks. Well, once again, it looks like things have quieted down here in the chat panel, and I want to wish you all a pleasant rest of your day today, because there's a fair amount of trading time left in the markets. It's the beginning of the week. Should be a very interesting week as more earnings start to come out with a focus on the tech industry. I know that there's a lot of eyeballs on companies like Tesla and what's going to be happening with them, as well as Google and Meta and things of that nature. So it should be a very, very interesting week. And we're glad that you're here. We certainly hope that you take advantage of the complimentary services that we offer to you with Telegram services to all of our gurus, etc. And just stay in touch, because we're constantly looking at the markets. We're evaluating what the opportunities are. We're serving up products and services that help you trade these markets. And we just want to make sure that you get excellent value in return on your investment. So with that, once again, thank you so much for coming today. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you at a future event. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.